Still on the topic of whole numbers, we're going to look at the topic of rate. All right, so a rate is a comparison between two quantities of different units of measurement. All right, so we use the word per when working with rates. All right, so when it says we are comparing two quantities of different units, sometimes you might think, what relationship does time have with distance, for one, which we're going to cover right now? Okay, when I was in first year, I studied civil engineering, so we had to look at the relationship between strength and stress for certain metals or certain materials. And I would often wonder, what does stress, like the amount of stress you put on a metal, have to do with its strength? But if you think about it, if a metal is very hard, you're going to need a lot of stress applied to it before it eventually breaks. Okay, so certain things, two quantities you need to measure. Or you might say, what is the relationship between temperature and the number of ice creams sold in a day? Well, if the temperatures are very low, not a lot of ice cream will be sold. But if the temperatures are quite high, then there'll be a lot of ice cream sold. So yes, but the thing about rate that I want to just emphasize, when you see rate, you need to involve time in it. Okay, because the rate at which something happens is how quickly or how slowly can it be done. So the thing with rate is you require time. Okay, so if in most cases there's no time to it, then you can't really say the rate at which this is done is quick or slow. Also, you can say finances as well, or money. So rate as well can be linked to money. Okay, but the important thing here is you are comparing two quantities of different units. I think that's the one thing you can take from it. Comparison between two quantities of different units. All right, so let's go ahead and see this example. And like I said, we use the word per when working with rates. So example one, a car covers a distance of 210 kilometers in 3 hours. Okay, so yeah, we know the distance that is covered and we know the time at which this distance is covered. So now it says, what is its speed in kilometers per hour? You know, on your odometer, as you are riding your car or you're in your parents' car, you'll see that now you're traveling at 60 kilometers an hour. You've seen the speed limits on the road, so you understand, at least from experience, that you can get distance per time, unit time, okay, kilometers per hour. So now what is the speed in kilometers per hour? Okay, so we're going to say speed. Okay, so your unit has to be kilometers per hour. Okay, that's what the line actually stands for, or you can say kilometers per hour. And if you continue with physics, later on from grade 10 to 12, you'll actually write it as kilometer per hour. You know, it's going to be written like this, but let's not get ahead of ourselves right now. So it's basically 210 kilometers as we have it here. In this case, it's per 3 hours. So now we need to just calculate there. 210 divided by 3, that should give us 70. Okay, but let's just use the calculator. So we have 70. So now we see the answer is 70 kilometers per hour. That is the speed in kilometers per hour. All right. Now it says, what distance would it cover in 7 hours? So the distance here, basically right now you have 70 kilometers per hour. Distance is measured in kilometers. So we need to get rid of this hour value. Okay, so now we're going to multiply it with what? 7 hours over 1. So you can then see if we write it over a big fraction. So we have 70 kilometers times 7 hours all over 1 hour. Or just, yeah, hour. So basically the hours will cancel out, and anything divided by 1 is just itself. So now we are left with 70 kilometers times 7. 7 times 7 is 49, so with this 10 over here, it will be 490 kilometers, and that is the distance that you would cover in 7 hours if you are traveling at 70 kilometers per hour. Let's look at another example. So 5 kilograms of sugar costs 55 rand. Okay, 5 kilograms costs 55 rand. Now it says, what is the cost per kilogram? Okay, the cost per kilogram is equal to what? We have 55 rand. That is the cost per 5 kilogram. And if we say 50 divided by 5, that is basically 11 rand per kilogram. That is the cost per kilogram. All right, so I hope that you can see how you work out rate. You've seen that we actually have two quantities of different units. Here we had kilometers and time, which is in hours. And then the second example, we had kilograms and cost in rands. Now it says B, how much would you pay to buy 60 kilograms of sugar? So we know how much, let me just say, what's the rate in rands? Okay, so the cost. In this case, we have 11 rand per kilogram, right? And now we need to buy 60 kilograms of sugar. So if we put it all under one big fraction line, so you have 11 rand times 60 kilograms divided by the 1 kilogram. So the kilograms, they cancel each other. Kilogram divided by kilogram is just 1. And then 11 times 60. Okay, I'm just going to check. So 6 times 11 is 66. Multiplied by 10, it should be 660. So that is the cost. How much would you pay to buy 60 kg of sugar? That is a lot of sugar. I mean, 60 kilograms is someone's weight. So yeah, 660 rand. Okay, and that is it for the topic of rate. That's something that you just need to be aware of. All right, comparison between two quantities of different units of measurements. So we also use whole numbers in the topic of percentages and decimal fractions. All right, so when it comes to percentage, the definition of a percentage is the number of parts out of 100 parts. Okay, therefore, if you have 18 parts out of 100 parts, that would be 18%. Remember when we were discussing the topic of rate, we said that we often use the word per when working with rates like kilometer per hour or rands per kilogram, whatever. In this case, we are saying so many parts out of 100. So percentage. Cent, remember if you think about cent, think about century, and century is like 100 years, okay? Or cent just really stands for 100. So per cent, you have however many parts per 100 parts. All right, so that is where the percentage comes from. So we have 18 parts out of 100 parts, hence that will be 18%. All right, and then what we can do, we can take our percentages and write them as decimal fractions. For example, 100% just means we have 100 per cent, which is 100 per 100. And that's just going to be 1. Okay, if we have 50%, we have 50 per 100. Okay, and if you put that in the calculator, it'll basically be 0.5. Okay, it's like if you do this 50 divided by 100, well, 100 doesn't go into 50 at all. Okay, but if you were then to bring down Okay, 0 times 100, that's just going to be 0. But if you were to bring down another 0, so 500 divided by 100, you're just going to get 5. Okay, so hence you have 0, 5. And just remove this. So 50%, 50 per 100. If you put it in decimal fractions, that's basically going to be 0, 5. And then what would 32% be? So 32%, this is 32 per 100. And in that case, that would be 0, 32. And what about 14%? Which is what VAT used to be before it went to 15%. So that's going to be 14 per 100. Okay? Or else we can say 0, 14. So that is how you can convert percentages to decimals. Okay. Now, how about we then take our decimal fractions and we put them as percentages? Okay, so now we're just doing the inverse. So if you have 0, 8, you're going to take that 0, 8 as a decimal. 0, 8 is the same as 8 over 10 actually. And you're going to multiply it by 100 in order to get a fraction. In order to get a percentage. Okay, so this is your 0, 8, your decimal fraction. In order to get it as a percentage, you multiply by 100. That's what you normally do to get something in percentage form. Multiplied by 100. So if you have then 0, 8, which is 8 over 10, multiplied by 100. Remember, 100 is 10 times 10. So the 10 divided by 10 will just cancel, and then 8 times 10, that's 80. So you get 80%. And then 0, 2, you're just going to take that, multiply by 100, and you're going to get 20%. 0, 45, we're just going to take that again and multiply by 100 because we want to get it to a percentage. All right, and that's just going to be 45%. And 0, 14, we're just going to take that, multiply by 100, and that's going to be 14%. Okay, so that's how you would convert a decimal to percentage. Previously, we looked at taking a percentage and converting it to a decimal. All right, now if we look at discounts and VAT, I did say something about it, like 14% is what used to be our VAT, but now it's 15%. And let us just hope that they keep it at that. So basically, VAT is like the tax that you pay for buying from shops. But anyway, value added tax, which is VAT, is the amount that is added on the price of some goods and services. VAT is calculated as 15 parts of every 100 parts. Okay. Like I said, right now, VAT is 15%. All right, that is VAT. It's quite unfair. Once you start working, you'll see you get taxed for working, and then you get VAT. So you get taxed. After getting taxed for working, you get taxed for buying goods and services. It's just ridiculous, but this is what it is. Yeah, and now what is a discount? Ooh. If you don't know what a discount is at this point, then you probably not buying anything. We all love discounts and we love negotiating to get a discounted deal. So a discount is a reduction in the price of an item. So now let's see at some examples. Example number 1, Figure bought goods of 100 Rand before VAT was added. That is the worst. You see an item and they tell you that this is the item that it costs 100 Rand before VAT. Can they just give us the amount after VAT so that you don't think you're going to pay less? So Figure bought goods for 100 Rand before VAT was added. Now, how much VAT was added if VAT is calculated at a 15% rate? So now what we're looking for 15% of 100. Now how do you calculate that? What you're going to do, this is the same as saying 15%. Remember 15 per cent per 100, and we multiply by 100 Rand. Okay, so if you write it over a big fraction, so you have 15 times 100 over 100. Okay, so the 100 divided by 100 is 1, and what you're left with is 15 rand. So this is the amount of VAT that was added. Okay, and that's 15 rand. Now, how much in total did she pay? Okay, I wanted to say, yeah. In this case, Figa is a girl. Yeah, so my sister-in-law's name is no Figa Gatle, so we'll just say yes, Figa, the girl. How much did in total did she pay? Well, you have 100 rand plus the 15 rand, inclusive of VAT. So in total, it is 115 rand. All right, so that is how you deal with discounts. Well, VAT, this is how we deal with VAT. Now let's see if we can get a discount example. So now it says a clothing store reduced all clothing prices by 20%. Ah, that's a nice discount. That's quite, yeah, it's worth it. So now, if a shirt was 200 rand, what is the new price? So we need to then get what 20% of 200 rand actually is. Okay? And then we can then work out 200 minus that amount. So if we're going to say 20% of 200 rand, okay, it's the same as saying 20 per 100 multiplied by 200. 200 is just 2 times 100. Okay, so 100 divided by 100, that will cancel out. So now you have 2 times 20, which is simply 40. All right, so 20% of 200 is 40 rand. So now they're saying if a shirt was 200 rand, what is the new price? So the new price is basically 200 minus the discounted price, which is 40 rand, and you get a total of 160. There was another way in which you can do it. You could have said, if 100% of this shirt was 200, I'm taking off 20%. So I'm left with 80%. So now what is 80% of 200 rand? Okay, so basically 80 per 100 multiplied by 200, 2 times 100. All right, and then the hundreds would cancel, and I'm left with 80 times 2, which is 160. So you will decide which one is easy to calculate. First, working out the 20% of the 200 and subtracting it from the original amount, or by saying 100% of that amount was 200. I'm taking away 20%, I'm left with 80. So what is 80% of 200? Which is simply 160. Okay, so really that is up to you. But that is the topic then of VAT and discount. And ladies and gentlemen, that is the conclusion of the topic of whole numbers. It was quite a lot, quite heavy. All right, I just want to get to the top there. Okay, so we definitely did whole numbers, and we can take that off the list. Remember, we did the properties of whole numbers. Then we worked out all the other things, okay, like your rates, your percentages, your decimals, discounts, VAT. What else am I missing? Ratios, highest common factor, lowest common multiple. All of these is things that you can do with whole numbers, okay? What do you call this? Inverse operations that we also dealt with. We've dealt with quite a lot. Factors and multiples. So you're ready now to head over to integers, and we'll see you then.